I have been dealing with a lot of quite, I would say, sedentary men who are working in the office, and the main struggle that I find with them is that they have very tight hamstrings, and they always struggle with the hinge movement pattern. So the way that I like to go about it is, rather than getting them to try do an RDL or a deadlift straight away on a barbell, I'll just get them to do on a trap bar deadlift first, because that obviously is a bit more easier for them to perform that exercise correctly. But I just want to hear what will be your sort of a protocol to sort of allow someone to develop that hinge movement over time.
Exactly what you've done is you've chosen a variation that's going to allow them to perform that pattern. Okay, so tight hamstrings, it's a very common thing, especially with people that don't move a lot. Okay, people that sit in front of a computer. Okay, and therefore that individual will come to exercises like a deadlift from the ground or a squat all the way down, and they're going to get a lot of posterior tilt of their pelvis. Their lumbar spines are going to round, and they're going to be the ones that complain to you that their lower backs are sore. And what's the most common solution? People say tight hamstrings. What do we do with the tight muscle? Real simple, we stretch it. Well, this isn't my approach, actually. Okay, in my opinion, and it's not just my opinion, this is based on working with some of the best rehabilitation specialists in the world. When we see a tight muscle, we ask why that muscle is tight. It's often because something is underperforming. The hamstrings are probably the only muscles that are working on this individual, okay? And there's other muscles that that individual has forgotten how to use because they just don't use them anymore. Sitting at the desk. The most common muscles, and this is probably going to get a lot of backlash because a lot of people say there's no such thing as glute amnesia. I'm not saying anything on those terms, but I know, I bet you if you saw this guy's butt, it'd probably be underdeveloped glutes as well. Okay, so what we need to consider is all of the muscles that are involved in this movement pattern. Okay, so your hamstrings. The reason why they can perform the trap bar deadlift a lot better, do you know why that they can perform the trap bar deadlift better?
So it limits the amount of hinge movement pattern that they're going to do, and also they can involve their quads more on the actual movement as well.
So you're correct, but indirectly. It's because they're bending their knees more that they don't require as much of a hamstring stretch. Okay, so therefore that's a great alternative. And what happens is it starts to strengthen those muscles. Now, when it comes to mobility, so the difference between mobility and flexibility, okay, is strength in those ranges. So you can be very flexible, you can lift your legs above your head, but you have no strength in that range. That's not great mobility. Okay, so this is what happens with the hamstrings is they are tight because they are scared that they don't have the strength if they allow the body to explore those extra ranges. So what we have to do is gradually introduce those extra ranges to the individual.
Yep.
Okay, so choosing.
Sorry to interrupt. Would you say for this sort of individual, you would recommend training hamstrings in a more lengthened sort of way? For example, like for example, a seated hamstring curl where you sort of really control the eccentric face and try to strengthen that?
Look, it's a great exercise, but it's still not going to fix the problem because they need that mobility in the hip extension exercise. Okay, so the reason why the hamstrings are tight, okay, with hip extension is because there's lack of strength in that position. Okay, so what happens is, what I would be more inclined to do is teach the hinge pattern to the range of motion that's available to the individual before their lumbar spine rounds.
Okay.
So it won't be very deep. So you could set up blocks and just have the individual just go to, a light touch and go to, a reduced range of motion, and then increase the range of motion from week to week.
Yeah. So like something similar
I would even say from phase to phase. Don't change the range of motion each week. I'd go like an RDL to whatever height, 100 kilos, 105 kilos, 110 kilos, and then repeat that at a longer range of motion.